Welcome back to the Quillcast, everybody. We're going to be talking about Kamala Harris today and reasons why she is still in the Democratic race for the nomination for president. Because as of right now, her campaign is stuck dead in the water. She has already peaked and she has nothing going for her other than trying to play kingmaker in a brokered convention in 2020 when the DNC has their big convention. Either that or she's trying to find herself a cushy job in case the Democrats retake the White House in 2020. I want to start up front and say that I really think it's unlikely that Trump is going to lose re-election in 2020. I think right now he's getting the political battle that he's wanted since the midterms with the Democrats. He's simply going forward with his strategy saying that there is some sort of conspiracy out to get him and that those that are pushing for his impeachment have been wanting him gone for no other issue than that of a political disagreement and that Orange Man bad. Other than that in mind, we can see that Kamala Harris is trying to find herself in a position as to where she might be able to succeed in the Democratic Party of the future, as she is clearly not in the position to be progressive enough to win the new wave of voters that are continuously pushing the Democratic Party leftward. I mean, if we want to start off with the polling, Real Clear Politics has a pretty good average when we're taking a look at where Harris stands. Right now, in the Democratic presidential nomination, Real Clear Politics has her aggregated out to be 5th place. She's behind Biden, Warren, Sanders, and Buttigieg. She's at 4.6 points aggregated overall in the Democratic polls. Now, this comes from Politico, economists, Harvard Harris, Emerson, and Quinnipiac. More or less respected polls. I'm not seeing any major outliers here. More or less, her highest that she has is from Harvard Harris, and that has her at 6 points at the top. But other than that, her 4.6 average seems about right. She peaked after the first debate. She had a real strong showing, similar to a Ben Carson or a Carly Fiorina in the 2016 presidential race in the Republican primary. However, though, Kamala Harris seems to be looking more and more like Marco Rubio was in the 2016 presidential race in the Republican primary, where he was trying to make a name for himself, promote his position, arguing that, he had an important state to play for Republicans. He said, I have Florida, I can definitely win Florida, and if not, I can definitely at least play kingmaker with my delegates. Kamala Harris is in the same position. I find it funny how well those two seem to be comparing to one another. Real Clear Politics for the California Democratic primary. They vote on Super Tuesday, which will be March 3rd in 2020. They have 416 delegates to play, which is really important at the convention. Right now, on the average, they have her at 4th place at 9 points, and this is only escalated because of a KGTV Survey USA, which is an outlier poll, where she's at 13 points. I mean, with the Emerson poll that Real Clear Politics has, even Andrew Yang is ahead of her. I mean, I guess, Silicon Valley has their candidate towards the future. They're like, the guy talking about automation, big tech, and, universal basic income, he might seem like our guy, as they continue to tweet away and promote censorship on a corporate scale, which is far more scary than any form of government today. But moving on, Kamala Harris is really in a similar position to Marco Rubio. Strong debate performances, strong on her own policy positions and backgrounds, but is not enough in the current trends of their own respective party. The standard-bearing neoconservatism that Marco Rubio was supporting, similar to that of Romney, McCain, and George W. Bush, was not going to cut it in the wake of what was going on with Trump and the populist wave in 2016. The same thing can be said with Kamala Harris in the progressive wave of 2016. She tried to make her name for herself as the only real woman of color running for president. Elizabeth Warren doesn't count for obvious reasons. When Harris was talking about busing and federal integration issues, she went after Joe Biden pretty hard, trying to make herself stand out from the crowd, and the poll saw a respective bump, but she's been floundering ever since, primarily because she doesn't have a repeat performance, and she cannot adequately defend her record. In the second and third debates, her responses to the questions both from other candidates and the moderators were just absolutely abhorrent. It illustrates that she is not a strong public speaker. She has quips that she'll sit on and think about when to bring them out, but she doesn't have anything to put herself above the rest of the field. The Democratic primary has essentially become a two-man race when it comes to electability in the Democratic establishment. It's between Biden and Warren. Sanders is the only grassroots candidate out there there. However, he's not going to be taken in by the establishment, and all that Trump has to do is call him out to be a socialist. Harris can't even win the young, woke, and progressive Democratic Party voters that are going to vote in the primaries, when she can't defend the fact that she said, oh, I used to smoke pot in college, but ignore me when I was Attorney General of California and the country's top prosecutor, and I, put more people in prison for nonviolent drug offenses than more other Democratic AGs that came before me in recent memory. And you wonder why people aren't interested in you, when the only response you have to the question is, that's not an accurate reflection of my record. It illustrates that you've got nothing going for you, that you have no defense of your record, that you haven't changed on your positions, that even though you have these ideas on criminal justice reform or you want to do something about nonviolent drug offenses, what you say isn't reflective of your actions, and you don't have a way to defend it. So now it really comes to the question as to what is Kamala Harris still doing in the Democratic primary in the 2020 presidential election? Well, one, we would say that she's trying to hold her ground for California and Super Tuesday and use her potential delegates as an opportunity to squirrel away and have a cushy job at the brokered convention and pay a kingmaker. Or she's probably going to try and get herself a job in a Democratic DOJ, maybe Attorney General or some personal attorney or other law enforcement official job that they may have. I mean, after all, Booker wants some sort of position in the White House for white supremacy and white nationalism. Maybe she can find a job there, but Booker's not doing well either, despite the fact that he reached his fundraising goals. But that's more or less about it. I mean, Kamala Harris is stuck, floundering both in the Democratic primary in California as well with the Real Clear Politics aggregates overall. I mean, the most latest polling from Emerson also tells us that in a theoretical matchup between Harris and Trump, Trump's got a 4-point lead over her, which is above their margin of error of 3 points. So it really shows that she doesn't even stand a chance against the incumbent president, even with what's currently going on. So that's about all. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and of course always share this content if you find it interesting. Leave a comment down below. I will link the Democratic primary polls, both the aggregates and the California aggregates, in the description. Until then, I'll see you next time on the Quillcast, and you all have a good night.